Welcome to Temple Builders Carpentry. Temple Builders, we problem solvers. Temple Builders, safety first. Okay, Temple Builders, today we talking about your hip roof. A hip roof has 4 sloping sides. 4 hip rafters run at a 45-degree angle from the corners of the building to the ridge board. Hip jack rafters frame the space between the hip rafters and the top of the exterior walls. As you can see right here in our drawing we got right here, we have 4 hip rafters. Here's our ridge board, okay? And right here is our hip jack rafters, okay? Because it moves from our double top plate to our hip rafter, okay? Right here as well. Anywhere that your rafter goes from your double top plate to your hip rafter, that's your hip jack rafter. Common rafters for hip roofs extend from the ridge board to the wall plates, similar to gable roofs. The king common rafter extends from the ends of the ridge board to the top plate. Another common rafter, commonly called the side king common rafter, extends from the end of the ridge board at a 90-degree angle. So if you look right here, here's our king common rafter. It extends from the double top plate to our end grain of our ridge board. Here's our side king common rafter, which goes from the double top plate at a 90-degree angle to our ridge board. And these right here in the middle, these are just your common rafters, okay? From the double top plate to the face grain of your ridge board. A hip rafter travels at a diagonal 45-degree angle on a plane view. A plane view is looking down, like a bird's eye view, to reach the ridge board, and is longer than a common rafter. So it's longer than a common rafter. Hip rafters differ from common rafters in other ways. In addition to plumb cuts at the ridge, heel, and tail, a hip rafter requires side cuts where it meets the ridge. See right here? That's the tail side cut. But also right here where it meets the ridge, that's your side cut. You see how it makes that triangle or pyramid shape? Okay. Side cuts are also necessary at the tail in order for the overhang of the hip rafters to align with the overhang of the common rafters. You see right here? So you guys, how I think about this is, think about when you're putting your fascia up here, okay, or your sub fascia. You gotta align with your common rafters, okay? This is your hip jack rafter, here's your common rafters. All this gotta align. You put your fascia up here, you need the end or your overhang to have these side cuts. The unit run of a hip rafter is 17, compared with 12 for a common rafter. Now, something you might see is something like this, the diagram like this, where you got 12, 4. So your unit rise is 4, your unit run is 12 inches. That's for a common rafter, okay? So this number changes, which this is your horizontal, right, your level. This number changes to 17 when you're dealing with a hip rafter. All right, let's keep going. The unit run of a hip rafter is 17 compared with 12 for a common rafter. Since a hip rafter runs at a 45-degree angle to the common rafter. You see this? It runs at a 45-degree angle to your common rafter. Look right here. You see I got my 45-degree angle right there? It runs at a 45-degree angle. Here's your common rafter. It runs at a 45-degree angle to your common rafter. Okay? Now, since a hip rafter runs at a 45-degree angle to the common rafter, its unit run is calculated using the diagonal of a 12-inch square. The diagonal of a 12-inch square is 16.97 inches, which rounds up to 17 inches A hip rafter must run 17 inches in order to reach the same height that a common rafter reaches in 12 inches. So the actual length is 16.97. But see, that's where you get your 17 because you just round up, okay, to 17. So your unit run, once again, is 17. 17 for a hip rafter. Now here's a little fun fact right here, okay? Over 90% of structural lumber produced in North America comes from the Douglas fir, larch, hemlock fir, southern pine, and spruce pine fir species group. Okay, let's move on. Now, before we go, is one more thing I want to talk about, and that's called backing or dropping the hip rafter. Your hip rafter needs to be dropped. If not, your plywood or your sheathing will be sticking up. Chamfering the top edges of a hip rafter is called backing the rafter. Backing prevents roof sheathing from being higher where it covers the rafter, the hip rafter, than where it covers your common and jack rafters, okay? So it prevents your hip rafter from being too high. And that's what I'm talking about is chamfering, which gives it a look like that along the edge, top edge of your hip rafter. It'll be a pyramid shape or a triangle shape right here on your top edge, chamfering it. Okay, that's one method. Another method to prevent roof sheathing from being higher over a hip rafter is dropping the hip rafter. The seat cut is enlarged, causing the rafter to drop. Consequently, the sheathing rests on the top corners of the rafter and is in line with the roof. Most carpenters use the dropping method because it's faster than the backing method. Okay, so our seat cut right here on this hip rafter is on the level, okay? And so they're talking about enlarging this in order to drop your hip rafter. And it's faster than your backing method, which you will have to chamfer your edge right here. All right, so if you like this information, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Now I want to talk about, I'm definitely going to have to show y'all how to do this with tools, and you got to get some hands-on because this is a difficult roof to construct. The Cash App is in the description box. Temple Builders.